Okay, in this video we're going to look at how to make a basic maze game, the sort of game that you would play as a young child, similar to the sort of thing you might find on Le Poisson Rouge. So this game is going to be a mouse looking for a piece of cheese in a maze. So the first thing we want is a mouse, and we've got a cat, so we don't want the cat. Let's cut the cat. There he's gone, and we'll add a new sprite from this folder here. I'm in an animals folder. There's you'll probably see these 6 folders when you first add a sprite, but we're going to look in animals and all sorts of animals here that you can choose from, but I've said a cheese catching mice, a cheese catching mice, a mouse catching cheese. So pop him in. A sad looking mouse. He's a bit too big for a maze so far, so we will shrink him using this. There we go. Okay, so now we have a nice small mouse. We now need to have a maze. And we do the maze by going to the stage. The stage is currently this white thing here. We want to go to the background and we want to edit the background. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a maze using the line tool. The line will make thick enough that we can see it, and I quite like green, so we'll go with green. So there we are. I like to be precise. Okay. It's a little bit shaky. Okay. So let's just draw a basic maze. We'll make him come down there. And we're going to put our cheese inside that little box there. Okay, so we've got a maze. We can always go back and edit that at a later date, but for now, there's our maze. He's a bit big still, so I'll just make him a little bit smaller. That should be okay to move around our maze. Right, so we've got our stage. We have got our sprite. You notice I've still got the reducer tool here, the cursor. If I want to get the arrow back, I just click anywhere which isn't on a sprite, and then I get my arrow back. Okay, so we go back to scripts now, and we don't have any script. We haven't told the mouse to do anything yet. So we'll begin with a control. We always begin with the green flag. Now when the green flag is clicked, the first thing I want is to get the mouse to the start of the maze, pointing in that direction. So I will tell him to go to X is -205, Y is 96. Now you needn't worry about the numbers. The numbers refer to the place on the screen. So right in the middle of the screen, well, if you have a look just down here, you'll see X and Y numbers changing madly. Now if my cursor is down here, X is 234. As I move it across the screen, X gets lower and lower and lower. Somewhere around here it's 0. Middle of the screen, and then over here it's -230. Y at the bottom is -170 odd. Somewhere in the middle it reaches 0, and then at the top it is +174. So this position here is recorded up here right now. It is minus 205 and 96. And it's also in here, so I can pop that there. So when the green flag is clicked, go there and also point in direction 90 degrees. That just means point right. You could say minus 90, point left, and so on. We're going to say that. So wherever the mouse is, when we press the green flag, he's going to go back to that point just there. Next thing we want to do then is we would like to move him. So all the way through this game, we would like him to move. We'll put this little forever loop in. So forever, and give him a motion, let's say move 10 steps. 10 is usually quite fast, so 5 steps is probably good enough. Let's have a look at that. Okay, there goes our little mouse. And I think the processor on my MacBook is just slowing down a little bit because I'm videoing, so it's a bit juddery, but off he goes along the top of the maze. All well and good, but it's a maze, so we can't get my mouse. There he is. It's a maze, so we'd like to be able to move him around it. So we'll say if, and we want to say, well, if the left key is pressed, so the left arrow. So in sensing, we want the computer to sense that a key has been pressed. So if key space is pressed. Now don't worry that it says space, because it's a drop-down menu and we can select the key we want. So if the left arrow key is pressed, we would like him to turn left. Now that's this one here. And we will turn in just 5 degrees left. And we could do the same for turning right. If, and we go to sensing, because again we want the computer to sense what is happening. Sense if the key is pressed, and this time it's the right arrow. And we want him to turn to the right, which is this one. Okay, and again we'll make that 5 degrees. Now I always like to build my code separately and then decide where it's going to go. So we want this to be forever, don't we? For the whole duration of the game, we would like the computer to sense if either of these keys are being pressed. So when the green flag is clicked, send the mouse back to the beginning, and then forever do this. We'll move and also check if that left arrow is pressed, and also check if the right arrow is pressed. So now we can do that, and we can move our mouse around. Okay, now so far so good, but the obvious problem here is that he's not really in a maze. He can just walk through all the walls. Stop everything. Can I still get him? Let's have a look. There he is, got him by the tail. Okay, so we want now to make him so that he can't go through the maze. So here's another thing we would like to say. We'd like to say, well, if, and we want him to sense now. We want him to sense that he's touching the maze. So if touching colour, and we want to choose the colour. Now if we click on that colour, we get a little eyedropper and we can pick up that green, so it's just transferred it into there. So if touching green, we'd like him to do something. What would we like him to do? Well, probably stop would be the first thing to do. So we would control him by saying, well, okay, if you touch a wall, wait 1 second, then we're going to send you back to the beginning. Motion. Go to, I'm just going to make these exactly the same numbers here, because I like to get things exactly the same, so we just change that to 96. So if he touches the colour green, wait a second, then go back there. And we want that to happen forever as well. So we want the computer to sense if the left arrow is pressed, to sense if the right arrow is pressed, and also now to sense if he is touching the wall. Let's have a go and see. So there we are, off he goes, and oh, he's hit a wall, back to the beginning. Now we can try and move him around. Oh, he's hit a wall, back to the beginning. Okay, and stop. So we've spotted a little problem there, and that's something that happens a lot in computer programming. You run a program and you see if there's a problem with it. Now the problem we've spotted here is that he hasn't pointed straight. See, he's pointed straight there, and we can there. So when he's sent back to the beginning, he hasn't pointed in the right direction. So although it looks like, because we sent him back there and we haven't said point in direction 90. So we should also add that. Now if we run our game and we crash him into a wall, when he goes back to the beginning, he's facing the right direction. Quite a tight bend there. Okay, so now we have got a mouse who runs around a maze, and if he bumps into a wall, he goes back to the beginning. The last thing we need then is we need to put some cheese in. So let's add another sprite. Now I happen to know that there isn't any cheese in here. I could draw some, but if I look in things, there's some cheesy puffs. So let's put a bowl of cheesy puffs in there. I knew them as Wotsits. You might know them as something else, but let's just make it nice and small. Okay, and we'll pop it just in there. So he has to get that cheesy snack to win. So we need to tell him now that if he makes it round the maze and hits that sprite, then he's won. So again, we'll go to Control and we'll say if, and again it's a sensing thing. We want the computer to sense, is the left arrow pressed, is the right arrow pressed, is he touching the wall, is he touching that sprite. So we can say just if touching, and you notice there's a down arrow here. It will give me all the things I can go for. Is it touching the edge? Is it touching the mouse pointer? Or is it touching sprite 2? And you see this is sprite 2. So if touching sprite 2, what shall we do? We shall say, let's make him say something. So if we go into looks, we will say, yum yum. Say yum yum, and then we'd like the game to end, and we have a special command for that in Control. Go down to the bottom and say stop script, and that way everything stops. So we'll put this if in there. So now we've got when the green flag's clicked, go to the start, check if the left arrow is pressed, check if the right arrow is pressed, check if he's touching the wall, check if he's touching the cheese, and if none of that's happening, move 5 steps. So here we go. There he goes. Yeah, let's just crash him into a wall. Okay, he's crashed. So he can have another go. And he'll yum yum. And there we are, we've got our mouse catching some cheese. It's a basic game. There's a lot of adaptability in it. You can make the maze a lot harder. You could make the thing he wants to chase, you could make that move around a little bit too, although this game is focusing very much on a young child, so a pre-prep child. But this is the basics of the user controlling a sprite on the screen to get some sort of reward. Now it's over to you.